Alright, I think that's as good as it gets. Oh, Jesus. Come on. Come on. Where are you? Uno momento. Got it. Alright. I was looking for my colors. Valhalla. Okay, let me think. Please, just let me think for a second, please. Thank you. Last video was, I felt like I cheated you guys with the view. This time I set it up so the view would be at least half decent. Last time it seemed pretty rough. Lord of the Lies. The samurai helmet? No, it's, I guess, a little bit. I think that's where Transformers got their styles. There's got to be Japanese influence. I'm sure it was like a Japanese art house that first did the cartoons for Transformers. So I'm sure there's Japanese influence in Transformers. Samurai robots. So I'm almost just dirtying this up on purpose. Some parts are too clean, and then over the course of the day I'll just go backwards. So now I'm like darkening some areas and stuff, and then you go back with some brighter values later. We can do a bit of a red. So this is a bit of a wash, like a glaze. So it's very thin. There's not a lot of paint, there's a lot of medium. And I'm using this stuff here. And I mix it with the oil paint. And your mixes, you have to figure that out. Sometimes it's a lot, sometimes it's a little bit, sometimes I don't use it. I'll say that again. Sometimes I use a lot when I mix with the pigment. Sometimes I don't use very much, and sometimes I don't use it at all. But how, why, or when is like, I'm not the person to guide you through that. However, I will tell you to try it and figure it out. Because it's, you get some really great effects, and I really like to, sometimes you don't want to change a lot, but you want to keep building. This is the way to do it, just with like gradual layers, and we're already going a little higher in value, but I just like the color, so let's see. I do have some skull reference photos. But skulls, after you start painting skulls a few times, they get easier and easier. Skulls are really a good place to start and like get good at, because they seem to be quite forgiving. And I think, you know, over time you can kind of start figuring out the landscape, and you kind of recall how a skull should look and where you can play with it and what you need to leave in it in order to make it look good. Because this piece is almost like, I wouldn't say almost finished, but in my mind it is. So I have all day today kind of dedicated to adding details and tightening it up, and I'm pretty excited about that. Because it's kind of the early afternoon, mid-morning for me here. And I have all day to kind of dedicate to kind of figuring this out, and because it's at the stage it's all like kind of detail stuff, so I can kind of just keep building and building. So you're watching kind of in a sense a bit of a boring part of it, because I'm not forming any of the object anymore, I'm not sculpting, I'm just adding slow details. And if I pace myself the way I am, which is boring to watch, but if I pace myself, like all these little details will start bringing everything together, which is, I think, my favorite part of the painting, is when I have a good foundation to work from, and then I just keep slowly like adding and adding and subtracting sometimes. And so now I'm even adding some of this blue into the skull here. So if I make this area a little too dark, and I decide, hey, it's a little too, it's not what I'm looking for, I can put some color back in later. And kind of when I talk out loud like that, these are just the thoughts that are in my head. It's not really, I'm not really trying to even guide you in that regard. I'm just telling you what I think about. So that would be a difference where I don't even, so I'm just talking out loud, so my advice might not even have value. It's just what my brain is saying. The other thing that's saying, you don't need a lot to make kind of big changes. You don't need big brush strokes, you don't need big globs of color, you just need subtlety. You keep playing with subtlety. It's kind of a reminder to pace yourself and stay at that pace. It's one thing to, okay, I'm gonna go slow, but then it's another thing to go slow for the rest of the day, for 4 hours, for the next 20 minutes. No, go slow. Just keep playing. And things will start coming to life really in a really cool way. Especially because this has been drying overnight, so all the layers underneath before I started doing this glaze were dry to the touch. They weren't cured or anything, but you weren't gonna blend them. They were dry enough. Let's play with the teeth. I have some reference photos for the teeth. But I also want to get some of this rust look going here. See how I can do that. Let me see some teeth. So the teeth aren't like yellow, they're like a creamy, they're gold obviously, but they're gold teeth. You can make them really standard like they are now, or you can start making them complex. So I'm going to try to find somewhere in the middle. Like there's even reflections in them and stuff that I see in my references. And then some are more yellow than others. But the reflections are going to be just kind of fabricated. So let's go with, we're going to go with the glaze, but we're not going to hit them all. We're just going to hit some areas. Just kind of play with some of the contrast here. So when we put some highlights in there, they pop more because there's more of a contrast. There's some darker values here. And you see, I'm just adding the layer on top. I'm not adding like an entire new color. I'm just washing it over. And I'm just brightening up that last color. And you just pick your spot. So I want this to be strong here. Kind of wanted a fang, maybe. No. I'm not sure. Like one golden fang. Sometimes I don't get into details like this because the painting has lost, not momentum, but just any energy that I have left is gone. Sometimes I just run out of steam. So I always think about like how much energy the piece has will determine how much I work on it. Once I kind of used up all the gas in the tank, I'm ready to move on. Because I woke up at this starting point today, I have all day to mess with these details, which is actually really exciting because I feel like normally in my process I'd be doing this at the end of the day and I'd be like, okay, this is a wrap. I have no more energy. So I'm kind of excited to spend the majority of my day on this to see what happens here. Because at this point, a buildup of details is just going to help this piece. Because like I said, I have the foundation. Let's go with or you guys can help me. What should I draw? Draw this. A skull wearing a Transformers helmet. Gundam. Kinda. So what should I draw here? I want to add a tag. Let's see. All right, let's go here. So the more details I add now, and even if they're kind of a little sloppy or don't make sense, I have, for the 800th time, I have all day to get it right. And so now is the time to mess around and just add detail and depth, even to my own detriment, because I have all day to clean it up and get it right. So you see, I start seeing things in the marks I've made, and I'm not even looking at the skull anymore as a reference, because it's kind of like I got the shape. So if it starts getting wonky, it's just I kind of go with it. Right, we can put some breaks and stuff in it. And if you go at a slow pace, you're not going to really damage it too much, and you can always fix it. And how you fix it is you just keep going. But you can see my brush, it's very small. There's a lot of liquid on the brush, on the paint, it mixed in the paint, so there are these thin layers. add some like scuff marks. Oh, see, and then when I do this stuff, like look, it's like a little Shrek Jason mask. That would be a great painting. You should, the person that was at meme, you're asking what to paint. Paint Shrek as Jason Voorhees. Like this guy right here. Just getting little details in here. And they'll all start working together. Like a happy little family. What's up, everybody? Just messing around, literally on purpose, to just keep building the painting. Adding details that I may or may take away later. But they all start working together. Just touching it, you see, I'm just touching it, moving it around. And the real reason is I don't have a rhyme or reason. That's the reason. You say like, why am I doing that? Because I just keep going. And then my consciousness will kick in and I'll be like, okay, that looks good or not good, and I need to take it in a certain direction. For example, the teeth are a little more, they're less nuanced. They're like straightforward. You gotta get, I don't care if they look accurate, but I do care if they look good. So, and I need a reference for gold teeth because I want them to look kind of surreal but real. I don't want them to look like just yellow dirty teeth. I want them to be gold and grills. So for this one like some of them come together a little better, I think. And then, okay, take a break from that. I like that addition, that brought it closer. Go back to your roaming. Roam, keep roaming. Keep roaming. You can, at this pace, I think that's this is some, dare I say, thoughtful advice, but at this pace and with this brush, you really can't make a mistake because you can fix it so quickly. So I'm not like, you see, I'm not using a brush like this, which is actually still fine, but I'm not using a large brush like this to make my marks. I'm just slowly chipping away at the piece. And so if I kind of do something, I pull it in a direction that I don't like, I can pull back really fast and I can course correct. So it's just about your pace, I think, is what I'm trying to say. Your pace. If you have the right mentality, because I think, especially, I can speak for myself, but like sometimes my pace is like really aggressive and I want to accomplish a lot in very little time. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes it does, but today it's not going to work like that. I want to give this the time it needs to really come together. So my pace needs to match that, and you gotta get your mind right so that you can pull the pace, you can keep the pace at this level, frequency, speed. One of my themes is like, which is not very original, but I've seen it a bunch in a sense, like, but when I paint things like Optimus Prime and then a skull, I think it really is just being an older man on this planet and how things have changed and how, you know, you wake up one day and be like, wow, my childhood is dead. There's very few remnants. There's only like these little artifacts left of me being 10 years old or younger. And I'm not claiming that's a very deep premise, but it can be when you sit alone and think about it. It's saying it out loud sounds pretty cheesy, but then when you're left to your own devices in your own room and you think about, wow, Transformers, right? Jeez, crazy. There's something about the death of your childhood. Like I think there's a lot to say about it actually. Maybe it's me trying to keep it alive. Paint something cool, man. Like to my younger self. Do something cool. Like I come from a world where I remember I saw one of my buddies had like a really crazy shirt, and I didn't know shirts could be crazy. I remember he wore it to school, and I'm like, oh my God, they make shirts like that? It was like a pretty demented, gnarly shirt. And I had no idea your shirt could have it could go off the rails. And so that was so exciting, because it opened my mind, like, oh wow, clothes can be more than these kind of items from the Bay or wherever you're in Walmart that are just pretty generic. Now I think things are quite different. But when I was younger, I remember, like, I have a vivid memory of seeing somebody with a shirt that had like something like, I think it was like a decaying skull, to be honest. And I didn't know you can get clothes that had decaying skulls on it. That really made me excited. It was fascinating. Wow, they made clothes like that? So obviously how times have changed. But that's where the idea of like, hey, paint something cool. When I talk to my younger self, what does cool look like? Well, I remember seeing that shirt for the first time. Still, it's got to be 30 years ago, 34 years ago, like. So that's the impact of like strong imagery on me, because it was a really demented shirt that a kid was wearing at school. It wasn't like slightly off color. It was like, whoa, that shirt is crazy, especially compared to what everyone else had. And that strong imagery stays with me forever. And that's what I like to paint in general. It's just strong imagery. I don't really, the message is secondary. I just want the image to stand alone. So some of these like peppered marks that I made earlier with like the dark brown and stuff, I can go around and kind of clean them up with a brighter value. And that's why I was saying you can just keep going and going, and then it starts to add depth and detail. Depth and detail. What we'll do is say, I'm gonna go back to my skull images. Most skull images are pretty, they're not cracked and broken, but they're so, what's the word? There's so much texture. So you kind of got to decide, am I going to go with the skulls that are like smooth, or are we going to go in the direction of a skull that is super textured? It's kind of like, you know, because some skulls look really good and real, but they're like smooth. This one is gonna obviously be textured, but I need to see where you gotta add kind of where some defining marks need to go. Where there are some areas that are like not smooth, but like also not textured, and you kind of combine them, use them both. And I also have some ideas for this skull too. And don't get, I almost went a little too bright already. You'll see like this is too much, but we'll go with it. This value's too bright, but that's okay. Let's go, let's try. I think what I was thinking to myself, I'm not ready for this bright value yet, but apparently I am. Yeah. Kind of just making things up. Okay, kind of like that. And there's still room for highlights and even some contrast. Let's add some contrast right now. Slow down. Got a little bit of paint on my brush, not a lot. Need a little more. I want to pull some darkness in here. You see that? Very subtle. I want some darkness in here and even down below. Stop. Pause. A little bit here. There's not much on my brush. Your pace, as I said, that's kind of the theme of this video. Your pace is what will save you. Even if the marks aren't really good, you're not doing too much damage because your pace and the amount of paint that's on your brush, it's not going to allow you to mess it up. And you just, by building and keep building, you can really pull some stuff together. I was gonna say pull it out of your ass, kind of. I'm not joking. Because the concept of building up layers and glazing, really, that's the magic of it. You are really pulling stuff out of your. I'm not even looking at gold teeth anymore. I've let it go because it's like these are kind of have become their own. They stand alone now. Now I'm kind of actually excited about them. They look a little more, again, surreal but real. Like they're not just yellow rotten teeth. They're clearly golden teeth. And we'll kind of keep going to try to make them better. Pick my brand or my brain? Brain. Blake. Yeah, reach out. Hit me on Instagram. Find me on Instagram. Reach out. Tell me you're talking about that, Blake. I would love to hear your ideas. Ideas are my specialty. So that kind of direction I love. It's a gift and a curse. My ideas are everything to me, and they just don't stop coming. That's kind of my favorite. That's kind of what my art, I really try to, that's what my art reflects, are my ideas. Like, what does your art mean? It's just my ideas over and over and over and over and over again. I just like seeing my ideas come to life. That's it. It's really not much, it's not, I start to dissect it and do some self-therapy and figure out where my ideas come from, but that's not even really what it's about. It's just about seeing my ideas come to life. And when I have idea books and idea notes on my phone, and I stop in the middle of the road to pull over to the side and write my ideas down, because they hit me like that. They hit me like a ton of bricks. And in that kind of mentality, I really do believe there's no such thing as stupid ideas because you can build off them. They're only stupid if you don't build off them. And sometimes you're building off them and then you realize, hey, this is going nowhere, that's fine. But even then, they can lead to something else. So I can clearly see on one hand, hey, that's a really stupid idea. I'll say that to myself for sure. But it's interesting, where can that take you? Where can a stupid idea take you? But in general, I don't even think of my ideas as stupid, to be honest. I think, okay, that's cool. It might not come to life. It might not have enough energy or enough excitement to come to life. But man, ideas. Oh, I think it's one of the most beautiful things about the human brain, just ideas. In fact, let's do that. Let me think. Let's go, I guess, one here. So, and let's try, I'm going to write the word ideas here. So first we'll do a little idea light bulb. That's an idea light bulb. It's pretty bright compared to everything else. Be aware of that. That's okay. So I'm just brightening up some other areas because kind of uniformity. Like if all of a sudden I just have this one area that's bright, I don't really personally like that. And in fact, I might even tone that down because it's still not working for me. So here's a completely dry brush. Oh. Not that brush. That brush is crazy. Let's try this again. Completely dry brush. Oh, forgive me. I'm not getting it. Wow. Okay, maybe not a dry brush. Let's try this again. Different strategy. I'm just going over it with a bit of a darker. See, I'm kind of in the subtlety zone. This is just personal taste now. So I keep going this way with my brush. I think we need to start going this way to get those ridges of the way the bones are formed, or seem to be going up and down. Here they're more like peppered. There's no real line. The lines are smaller, so they're almost like dots, which also could be where it's more smooth. Here I see some lines going this direction, see up and down. here there's more meat there. And tone down my color. So I've gone backwards from the highlights that I was putting on earlier. More of like a base color versus the highlight. I want shadow here, but not a little less, that's all. So that's the first time I made a mark that I don't really agree with. And this is what I was talking about earlier, like, hey, I just not really feeling that. So we just pull it away, just like that. Yeah, I don't want to change his shape, because then it starts to add almost like character. Like, I don't want it to look like a sad skull, I'm just, the skull is better kind of just left neutral, and then the helmet is where the style is, and then the gold teeth as well. The skull is almost like foundational for just like, okay, I kind of understand what's going on. Not that it makes sense, but at least I understand that there's a skull wearing a helmet. If the skull gets too abstract, you can lose your concept of a Transformer graffiti helmet pretty fast. So you need some foundational, like, hey, that's Mickey Mouse. And then you can play with ideas. That's typically how I can translate my ideas too, right? You need some sort of foundation. Like even a room, sometimes it's like all I need is a room, and then everything else is very abstract and insane. But the room gives it some sort of like starting point or general understanding. If the whole thing is abstract, then that's a totally different kind of agenda. So this color is pretty interesting because it's very translucent, but it's in between the dark and the mid dark. It's almost like a fourth color. So it's brighter than this, but then darker than this. And that same, even though it's a different color, the value is the same thing here. It's going to be brighter than this and then darker than this. Doesn't matter about the color, it's about the value. You hear pretty much every painter that's telling you what to do talk about the values, because it's not about the color, it's about the shade, how it compares to the surrounding values, the colors around it, not the colors but the values. And the more nuanced you get, the more detail you get. So if you want to go, hey, I'm going to go in between here, these colors, I'm going to go in between here, then you start getting some more and more, not only detail, but nuance. I might need to say that again. Nope, too lazy. Now we're going higher in values here. It's kind of the, besides here, if this is the first time I'm going brighter. So I've left myself a lot of wiggle room to play in like highlights and the higher on the spectrum. I'm at a higher. On the color wheel, I'm brighter. And you see those highlights will cut through right through the color. They don't stop just because there's color there. I could add like a bright yellow to, again, to get more high level, I guess, but you can get away with just using a brighter value over top. Now I kind of actually changed my, so before that was like a bluey white, now I'm going to a browny white, which is almost cream. I just don't want the same highlights throughout. I want them to kind of change. Very subtle, but makes a difference to me. So now this is like a creamy white, not a blue white. I think that adds some nuance to it. Kind of add, careful here. You can get like that. You can get carried away right quick. I have to kind of figure out what to do here actually. You can get some blue in here. Blue. A little black. See how it looks? Because in theory the helmet is blue, so pulling out some different variations of the blue is good. Oh, you know what I want? I want some Inception stuff. Let's go with that. think. Kind of like a deep red. Let's see. I wanted it's some Inception stuff. What I mean is, guess it's not going to be very dominant. I was going to put a skull within a skull. I like this red. These little details. Add some complexity. Let's add some. There's going to be some. I'm even going to break it. In the past, I'd be working on something that I really like, and then I keep going and I keep going, and then I wreck it, or I pull it away from a place where I really liked it to a place that I didn't. So I guess you could say I just wreck it, but I keep playing with it, like especially faces. You have a face in a certain direction and you're starting to really like it, and you keep working on it and keep working on it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, we went so far off the rails, or we took it so into such a different direction. And how I solved that problem for the most part is my pacing, glazing, pacing and glazing. Because now, like with this, I can keep doing what I'm doing. I can keep working it, keep working it back and forth, taking, adding, subtracting, moving things around, but everything is so subtle that I can keep the reins on. I can keep everything under control. It doesn't get away from me. So I don't worry about that anymore. I don't lose it. I'm like, oh, you had it. Now you don't have it anymore. I don't go through that. I don't go through that. And I see other fantastic painters have that same ability, that they can take it any direction, and they're not afraid of losing something that they had. They can always go back. They can always bring it back. Now that's not 100%, but it's pretty close. There's still pieces I've like, oh, I really liked it at this point, especially when you're like in a chaotic early stage. You might not be able to get it back, like having something that you did that just really looked cool and then it's gone. I'm not talking about that, but I'm just talking, I can work on this all day And for me, it'll only go in the direction that I want, and then in theory get better. Even though I just keep picking away at it, picking away at it, picking away at it. So pacing and glazing. My pace won't allow me to derail. Alon พูดภาษาไทยได้ไหมครับ
พัสดุมาค่ะ
ครับผม
ไอทำอาหารเช้ากัน
ครับผม
อันนี้อะไรชาเขียวเหรอชา
Oh maybe what I see now is just the skull needs work. That's it. I might do some glazing as the day continues, as some of it kind of gets more tacky and dries. What is that? That's brown. Red. Let's see here. Maybe a little yellow. Maybe. Kind of looking for that rusty vibe. Just adjust you. So with that rusty vibe, we'll go back over here. Going pretty hard on the highlight at the moment. This is just indicating some edges here. Let me think for a minute. I'm thinking. Please, for the love of God, let me think. Let's go. We're gonna go really dark in value here. This is play. Like a dark, black, red. Why? Because I see. I really. It's about contrast now. In some of the eye, I want it to be like as dark as I can get it, almost. So this is not pure black, but it's close. So sometimes, like I've been spending the last, I don't know, 40 minutes on brighter values. Let's go the other way. Let's get into some of those dark, and you can add like some more shape in here. You can start messing with the shape of the eyes too. This can get a little crazy, and watch, like we can add some broken elements. Kind of like very war-torn, battered, broken, damaged. It's those little nuances at this point, especially again, the theme of this stream is your pacing. I have the same pacing as always, so that's good. And kind of curve and subtly sculpt some of these, the shape here. I think my food's coming, so I'm gonna let you guys go. I hear my wife cooking. Pretty excited, not gonna lie. Okay, so let's add some damage over here too, because over here I haven't really spent much time. Let's almost make it chipped or cracked over here. Yeah, I like that. Same with up here. And then some defining features. Let's break that. Let's break that. Let's break that. No, that's stupid. Didn't like that one. Okay. Break that. That's good. That's good. There's some defining feature here. Let's break it here. Break it up top here. Yeah, it's morning for me here. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. Let's break it here. And there seems to be well, I'll be able to finish this later today. Put some more glazes on it as it dries. Kind of just play around with some of the coloring with glazing and put some little highlights on there, kind of maybe mute the skull a little bit. There's a lot of detail. It's kind of almost too much in some areas, I think. So we'll probably calm that down. I don't know. Just thinking out loud. And then I'll post this piece as a reel, like the full process sped up obviously, and post that later today. Morning for some of you, evening for the others, evening for me. But I'm gonna boogie now. How long were we going today? Oh, hour and 20 minutes, not bad. Good, good, good. And sometimes you need to like give it a little breathing room, meaning like take a break, stop, eat, go for a walk, etc. Do your errands, come back with a new pair of eyes. That's really healthy for the painting. Give it some breathing room. Can't finish everything in a sitting, and nor do I ever like really want to try. I kind of really like letting it breathe. The more time you can give it, the better, right? I think so. Little bips and bobs. Okay. Okie dokie. See you, everyone. I'll post the whole thing later. I'm out. Ciao.